In the Factor follow-up segment tonight, there are now estimates the state of California, which is already on the verge of bankruptcy, will have to pay more than $2 million for the birth and care of the octuplets. Now, in her book, Guilty, Liberal Victims and Their Assault on America, Ann Coulter takes on single mothers who can't support their children, and now she feels somewhat vindicated. Miss Coulter joins us here in L.A. Is that correct? Do you feel somewhat vindicated?
Well, it's interesting that everyone, even liberals who would defend a welfare mother who had 14 children by 14 different men, or maybe if the Octomom had selectively aborted 5 of these children, I don't think you'd get the anger from the left. But I mean, it's the same thing whether she's having IVF for 14 children or you have 14 women having IVF for one child. It's a little bit worse having her have all these children. But, you know, what allows anyone to do it? You have a lot more of the welfare moms. It's because the government is paying for everything for the Octomom.
The government will wind up, unless she was paid by NBC to do the interview with the Today Show. I don't know how much, and but she was. And she'll get some money from other tabs, but it's not going to be nearly enough because these kids are going to have all health problems. So the state of California, taxpayers are going to have to pay. But your point in the book is what
happens to the children, and that's the point. If you didn't have the welfare system subsidizing the narcissistic choices of women like this, these 14 children would have a much better life.
But what is the alternative if you don't subsidize children of irresponsible parents?
Right.
What do you do? Just
she probably couldn't have had the 14 children. I mean, she's on food stamps. She used
a settlement, a workers'
disability
to pay for the in vitro.
No, and disability payments from the government because she's too disabled to sit at a computer terminal, but apparently is not disabled enough to have.
We know it's a con, but the question for you,
but it's a con that was paid for even up to this point by the government. So you already have the choice being made. Once you'd have a lot fewer of those choices being made by women if they didn't have the government paying for it. Moreover,
do you really believe that? I think these women are so troubled they'd have the babies anyway.
Illegitimacy has gone up nearly 400% since 1970. That is not an accident. That's not women who would have it anyway.
It's the permissive society in which we live. It used to be.
Well, that's all part of it.
Right. But I think they would have the kids anyway, and the welfare thing, I don't think that's on their mind. But here's something interesting. The mail that I've gotten over this, and we were the first ones in the mass media to say this octuplet thing was bad. You remember the first 2 days all the doctors were smiling and it was a big touchy-feely.
We didn't know the details.
And I said from the jump this was bad. But you know who I've gotten mail from? I've gotten mail from the pro-life people saying, oh, you're a mean guy, O'Reilly. At least she didn't abort the babies. At least she gave birth. That's
can we have a standard higher than she didn't kill the kids?
That's what I said.
I feel like I'm in a world where people are defending, wife beaters and saying, well, at least he didn't kill her. Can we have a standard higher than that?
But I didn't get any mail from lefties sticking up for her. I didn't get any mail from liberals sticking up for this.
Well, I'd only taken you to the point where I do not believe so many women would be making the choice to irresponsibly have children without fathers. We only got to that point. If the government were not going to be paying for these children for the rest of their lives, they'd be put up for adoption. They would grow up in wonderful homes. And as the research that I found in researching Chapter 2 of my book demonstrated, children who are adopted turn out better than non-adopted children.
It's a very interesting point. Of course, the government can't force anybody to do anything.
No, but they're paying. She would be forced to give them up for adoption if the government were paying her narcissistic choices.
She'd be forced economically to do it. She couldn't feed the family. But see, our society is never going to tolerate that. It's never going to come to that.
But now we're at the point where everyone's looking at it thinking, I wish the state of California could take those poor, innocent children who are being given the worst chances in life. I wish the state of California could step in and take them away. You don't need to take them away. You just don't need to pay for the bad choices.
Well, you might need to take them away because I believe this is child abuse and child neglect. And we petitioned the state of California to have an agent there on a daily basis to watch that these children aren't abused. How can they not be abused?
Right.
I mean, there's 14 children in a 3-bedroom place.
Right.
How can you not be neglected when the diapers have to be changed? These kids are going to be up around the clock. Who's going to do that?
Right. And as the research shows, even if there aren't 14 of them without a father, they are starting life with the worst possible life chances.
There's no father and there's bankrupt grandparents. So I wouldn't be surprised somewhere along the line the state of California does come in and take those kids out of the house.
Well, I'd be in favor of that. I'm just saying that is a more aggressive state action than the state simply withdrawing care, saying we're not going to pay for these narcissistic choices of yours.
That's never going to happen in America.
Well,
it'll never happen.
Well, that's why I talk about what ought to be changed. I mean, it wasn't that way for the first 200 years of the country.
No, it wasn't. Right,
it is possible to have a society
we've
like
evolved
that.
now. We're enlightened now.
And it's even worse under the stimulus bill. They've rolled back a lot of the provisions of the welfare bill. And by the way, when the welfare reform bill went through in 1996, the illegitimacy rate, which had been marching forward every year, suddenly halted.
Right, went down.
And it went down in some segments, yes.
Well, they're still going to say you're a mean person. You know that, right? You don't really care.
They say that as long as I'm breathing.
All right. Who's meaner, you or me?
Ooh.
That's a pretty good one, huh? All right,
That
next
is
time,
good.
you tell me. Directly ahead, a Los Angeles.